From the 11 Alive studios, this is The Georgia Vote with Faith Jesse and Zach Merchant.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to The Georgia Vote. So the 2026 election may seem far away, but in today's political climate, it's never too early to enter a race or at least try to retain your seat.
Now, Senator John Ossoff, he is up for re-election, and he will no doubt face a competitive and expensive challenge in the next 19 months. And he is using his time away from the district to meet with Georgians. Ossoff hosted a town hall meeting Friday in Cobb County. And as we've seen at similar events in Georgia and nationwide, those who showed up were not afraid to speak their minds. In this case, one Ossoff supporter wanted more fight from the Democrats against the Trump administration.
Do you think that there's nothing can be done? No. Do something more. I like you and I will vote for you if you are brave and you do what we need. We need him impeached. We need him removed.
As strongly as I agree with you, ma'am, and I regret if this is an unwelcome response, but my job is to be honest with you. The only way to achieve what you want to achieve is to have a majority in the United States House of Representatives. And believe me, I'm working on it every single day.
Ossoff also touted his ability to build bipartisan working relationships in Congress, which you can expect he will emphasize as part of his 2026 campaign. But he also criticized the Trump administration for cuts to public health agencies, accusing the president of waging a war against the CDC, which, in the senator's words, is foolish and short-sighted.
And the senator is gearing up to face many challengers to that seat, which Republicans desperately want to reclaim. Is Governor Brian Kemp the man to do it? Well, we still don't know his plans, but in the meantime, he is fulfilling his duties as governor. This week, he signed his signature piece of legislation from the past session, a law that will set limits to jury awards in civil cases, or tort reform, as the governor and his allies call it. Now, according to Governor Kemp, the law will soften the impact of costly lawsuits that he says raises insurance rates and drives out business.
The calls for change came from every sector of Georgia's economy. The status quo was simply unacceptable.
Well, during the debate over legislation, victims of sex crimes and human trafficking complained that it would let owners of properties like hotels off the hook for poor security. There was a carve-out for human trafficking victims, but not for others.
Governor Kemp has a little less than 2 years left in office, and Democrats, they are eyeing that open spot leading the state government. Jason Esteves is the first Democrat to formally announce his candidacy. The Atlanta Democrat currently serves in the state Senate. Before that, he chaired the Atlanta Public Schools Board. We sit down with the man who wants to be Georgia's next governor in this week's Sunday Conversation. Let's start with this, the most obvious question. You have announced your candidacy for governor. Why do you want to be Georgia's next governor?
Well, because Georgians deserve better. When you think about the fact that Georgians are working harder than they have ever before, yet they, for so many, are still struggling. They deserve a governor that can tackle a lot of the issues that they're facing around housing, around health care, around education and investing in our children, and ensuring that we have a state that is investing in Georgians by supporting small business owners.
You said Georgia deserves better. Do you see Governor Brian Kemp's tenure as a failure?
Well, look, I think that there are a lot of things that have been left on the table. When you think about the fact that 70% of our children are not reading on grade level across this state, there's a lot that can be done there. When you look at the workforce shortages that we're having in healthcare, in housing, and technology and engineering, the Chamber of Commerce can tell you how many jobs are available. There's a lot of work that we can do around that. There's also work that we can do around healthcare, where you have 500,000 Georgians who don't have coverage, and that number will go up as we see the chaos coming out of Washington because of Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And then finally, when you look at housing, and you think about the high cost of rent, and how hard it is to buy a home nowadays.
You just used the word chaos. For anybody who got a chance to watch your campaign launch video, within the first 20 seconds of your campaign launch video, you referenced President Donald Trump. Do you see your candidacy as a rejection of President Trump?
I see my candidacy as a campaign for Georgia. I am focused on Georgians and the issues that they are facing. One of those issues that they're facing is the chaos coming out of Washington, D.C., and the work and the distractions that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are throwing our way. And Georgia needs a governor that can break through that noise, can fight through that noise, and really focus in on what really matters, which is us. It's Georgia. It's the hardworking people of this state.
If you had to say what the biggest problem facing Georgia is right now, what would you say?
I would say that it's the high cost of living in the state and the fact that Georgians need policies in place to reduce the cost of housing and the cost of health care and make sure that we have access to a great education system.
How do you do it?
We do it by rolling up our sleeves and working together to address those various issues. And we have the money. When you think about the fact that the governor claims we have $16 billion in money sitting in bank accounts, the fact that we have a $37 billion budget, we can solve these issues by working together and making sure that we're investing in the people of this great state.
When you look around at the political landscape in our state and in our country right now, what keeps you up at night?
The divisiveness, the distractions.
On one hand, you've been explicit in your disapproval of what you called the chaos coming out of Washington from Elon Musk and President Donald Trump. On the other hand, you're saying you want to be a candidate that moves beyond the divisiveness and is a bridge builder. How do you do both of those things at once?
Yeah, look, it's building on what's been done, right? I can say that some of the things that they're doing in Washington, D.C. are not good. I can say that some of the stuff Republican leaders have done in this state have ignored some key issues. But I can also say that I can build on what's been done. I can build on some of the successes that we've had to give Georgians a better state. I think that too often in our politics today, we go with good and bad. Oftentimes there's somewhere in the middle. So if it feels like I'm somewhere in the middle, it's because that's the reality.
The full interview with State Senator Esteves is available right now, streaming on 11 Alive Plus. Download it for free on your TV. Now, a prominent Democrat who is not jumping into the 2026 race, that's Jason Carter. Carter ran for governor back in 2014, and he is a former state senator. He's also the grandson of former President Jimmy Carter. Recently, he told the Associated Press he cannot imagine a run right now, and he went on to say it's the wrong time for his family. Carter's wife is battling serious health issues right now. Now, these are both some major moves in these early days, these early stages of the 2026 campaign.
That's right, and this is a very good opportunity to bring in our panel this week. Mark Roundtree, Republican strategist and pollster. He's also the founder of Landmark Communications and a veteran of Georgia elections and campaigns. Democratic strategist Howard Franklin. He's worked on campaigns throughout the Southeast, including the 2021 campaign for Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens. He now leads the consulting firm Ohio River South. And Greg Bluestein, AJC political reporter and author, also a contributor to MSNBC and NBC News. Let's start with this, the early nature of people getting into the campaigns. We just heard from Jason Esteves. We know that Keisha Lance Bottoms has said that she wants to run. We also know that Bill Cowsert, the state senator, putting his hat in the race for Attorney General. Is it normal for people to announce this early?
Well, no one's gotten in earlier than Attorney General Chris Carr for governor. He got in weeks after the November election.
Had you ever seen anything like that? Have any of you ever seen anything like that?
I hadn't.
Not by major candidates.
Yeah, earliest on record, I would say, for the major campaigns, for sure.
But I mean, look, this is going to be an expensive, costly race for all Georgia statewide races, but particularly the governor's race and the U.S. Senate race that we're still waiting for movement on. And it's going to be, it's going to require that operation, that organization really early. So these candidates are setting the tone right now.
How competitive is this Democratic field going to be through the primary? Not talking general election, we're talking just through the primary.
I mean, only time will tell. I think Jason was smart to get in early. He knows he's had a meaningful political career, but to run statewide, Georgia's gotten bigger, it's gotten even more complicated to run and to win a primary, and obviously, as Greg mentioned, it's gotten even more expensive. So getting in early makes sense. I think a lot of folks are looking at this race. They're looking at the chaos that Senator Esteves mentioned and wondering whether or not President Trump and Elon Musk and others are going to present an opening and make for a more competitive general election. I think that's really the wait and see that a lot of folks have considered, but he said he wanted to do this. I've been talking to him for months. He's been planning to do it, and once the session was done, he was ready to jump in.
And Mark, I'd like to get your thoughts on the other side because, as Greg mentioned, I mean, Chris Carr super early. Is it a money thing? Is he just trying to get ahead?
It was all about the funding because candidates who are elected to state office are not allowed to raise money during the legislative session. So he was trying to raise as much money as possible in November and December. So that's why there's now this sudden spur of people announcing to run because they couldn't raise money during the legislative session. I do think Michael Thurmond is a potential candidate to potentially run for a major statewide office still.
Could Stacey Abrams be somebody who jumps in as well? Greg, I know you've covered her campaigns for a long time in Georgia now. She's said to at least not have ruled out another run for governor yet.
Yeah, Zach, she's the one Democrat who does not need to get in early. She could wait until, early next year because
But if she waits, that could impact others like State Senator Esteves who are in early, right?
And that's why it's so important for any candidate who gets in now on the Democratic side to show momentum, to show good fundraising, to show organization, to have a good message because Stacey Abrams is out there waiting. I don't know if she wants to run or not, but the specter of Stacey Abrams, someone who could instantly bring high name recognition, fundraising ability, the fact that she's run statewide twice before, the fact that she can command state and national media attention with the snap of fingers, means that the candidates who do get in now have to show a really strong early start.
I do think the early entrants into the race are going to be working to show their campaign chops and bona fides. They're going to try to raise money early, shore up political support, because if she does decide not to run, all those accoutrements and attributes she has to deploy to a race as a candidate, she could also deploy in support of the right candidate or the eventual nominee.
Another person who doesn't have to come in early, Governor Kemp, if he announces.
Another one is potentially, on the Republican side, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has universal name recognition. She polls at about 40% in a Republican primary, way 30 points ahead of the next closest competitor. So she could, for Senate or governor, make a decision to do something later than others.
On that moment, we're going to take a pause. We will see you guys on the other side of the commercial break.
Well, there is a very old saying, all politics is local. And we are seeing that a lot during this off year for elections.
That's right. So Georgia Senate Democrats, they want to fire up their base by attacking President Trump's policies. And on Wednesday, a group of state senators, they called reporters to the Capitol to lay out plans to fight back against what they say is anti-constitutional behavior by the Trump administration. Well, the main talking points, rather, were tariffs and immigration. They mentioned a specific case, Maryland man Kilmar Abrego Garcia, whose removal from the United States is now a flashpoint in the current immigration debate. The Senate Minority Leader says the Trump administration is showing a pattern of defying judges.
It's not difficult to say that you believe judges' orders ought to be followed. I'm a lawyer. I get orders all the time that I don't like. My client gets orders all the time that they don't like. And I say it's a judge's order. We have to follow it. That's at a low level. And when you start talking about you represent the United States government and you're not following judges' orders, or you talk about the judges ought to be impeached because you don't like their decision, this is unprecedented, quite frankly.
So that's what we're hearing from Democrats. Here's what state Republicans had to say. Party Chair Josh McCoon, he said, quote, "These are the same people who, along with President Biden, presided over the greatest loss of personal and constitutional freedom in recent memory in the name of COVID lockdowns. So it is difficult to stomach these crocodile tears from Georgia Democrats who only seem to care about making sure China is able to dominate the world and that America is left unable to defend itself from an onslaught of illegal alien invaders." Interesting tack by the state Democrats. Greg, I want to go to you because you wrote about this. We're seeing a collision of state and national politics here.
Yeah, it wasn't terribly long ago that state Democrats tried to steer clear of national politics. Now, in the Trump era, that's been transformed. In Zach's interview with State Senator Jason Esteves, you heard him say chaos of Donald Trump's administration. So much of what happens in 2026 in Georgia depends on the popularity of President Donald Trump and his agenda.
Ossoff is not really very popular as a U.S. Senator. In fact, Kemp, there is no public poll that shows Ossoff ahead of Governor Kemp. If Governor Kemp runs for that, it's probably going to be a pickup for the Republicans.
Howard, I bet you have a response to that.
Is that an uphill battle for Ossoff?
I mean, we're so far from. I know we're looking at this, 2 years.
It feels closer than it is in some ways.
Objects in the rearview mirror do appear
Yeah.
closer than they actually are. But that to say, I think it'd be a spirited challenge. I think obviously the governor is a popular politician. He's had a positive and a successful run as governor so far. But I do think that this would be a spirited fight. I think Jon Ossoff has shown himself to be very successful as a bipartisan lawmaker. He's got a ton of successes underneath his belt, and he's a very spirited campaigner. I think he'd actually present a really tough challenge.
No public poll shows Ossoff gathering more than 42% of the vote right now. 42 is a pretty low bottom to start your campaign. But of course, you're correct, Howard.
Yeah,
I mean, it is a long way to the election. We all get that, but it's just as long for the governor. And
if we decided,
he's pretty strong.
If we decided elections by what the polls say, a lot of folks that are elected today wouldn't be elected.
Can I ask a point here?
Trump.
We are talking about this hypothetical scenario where if Governor Kemp does get into the Senate race, that's what you're talking about, this polling situation.
Right.
If Governor Kemp does not get in, if all the voices from inside the state party and inside the Republican Party in D.C., the power brokers all across the country, they're saying, hey, Governor Kemp, please get into this race. If he says no, thank you, then what happens to the Republican
virtually
field? Is that going to be a wide open competitive primary?
Virtually the only person that does not want Kemp to run right now seems to be Kemp, and maybe his wife, we'll see. But I mean, everybody else on the center-right side of things is kind of hoping he runs for it. But the other candidates are not as strong. Marjorie Taylor Greene could run for that. She comes with additional baggage that he would not have. Congressman Buddy Carter might be a candidate for U.S. Senate. Congressman Mike Collins. We have polled that Senate race, by the way, and Collins does come in barely in. If Taylor and Kemp don't run, the next one in line is Congressman Collins.
Greg, I want to ask you this because we saw at Ossoff's town hall, it's something, and I saw it also at Nikema Williams' town hall, which you were at as well. They're frustrated. Yeah. They're saying, why can't you do more?
Yeah, we're seeing Democrats in particular upset that fellow Democrats aren't taking a more confrontational approach. Jon Ossoff at that town hall just a couple days ago, he said, look, I can't push a magic button. There's not some secret senatorial tool that I can do to erase what Donald Trump has done. But they are under pressure to show that they are fighting back. And Democratic voters want, in many senses, a more confrontational, aggressive approach to Donald Trump right now.
You even had Ossoff openly saying in what we just saw that he would support impeachment when there's not even a charge for him to do so. He just generically supports impeachment. I think they're frustrated. I think they're very frustrated by the success and the absolute steamroller that the Trump administration has done in the first 100 days.
I'll just say no charge, only because we know we don't have control of either of the chambers. But I think we just are in a litany of different things, disobeying orders from federal judges for starters that would probably qualify for impeachment. I don't think Democrats have figured this out. I think they're, half of the party, as we heard from Senator Esteves, wants one thing and the other half wants another. It's going to take some time for this to shake out. We're not even at 100 days yet for this presidency. But I think between the two things happening, both Trump's agenda coming to fruition, as well as Democrats getting their act together, we will see a spirited race next year.
So much to talk about each week. We appreciate you all being here.
Thank you, guys.
So very much. We will be right back after this. Well, Georgia's Secretary of State may have a 2026 plan for higher office in mind. Maybe, but he is certainly not sharing it, at least not yet. Brad Raffensperger, in his second term, says he will continue to travel around the state, talking with voters, and then decide the best option for him. He was also asked about President Trump, who has had a contentious, at times, relationship with Georgia state officials. Raffensperger says the president has done as promised in his second term so far.
The border has been shut down, and that's one thing that everyone, believes should have happened. Well, not everyone, I guess, but large majorities. And since day one, I've always been saying that we need to make sure we have secure borders, and it's been shut down.
And stay with us. We return with a very special edition of Voice of the Voter.
Well, this is a little bit of a special edition and a special show for the Georgia Vote because we want to take a moment to thank all of you for helping the Georgia Vote, helping us, all of us, celebrate our very first birthday. We began here on 11 Alive in April of 2024, and we have had so much to talk about.
So much to talk about. And at the end of each and every single show, we hear from you, the Georgia voter. And we have heard from so many of you in the past 12 months from all over the metro and points beyond in Georgia.
Week after week after week, amazing Georgians have welcomed us into their lives, sharing their thoughts and their worries and their hopes through what has been a remarkable year. In a special anniversary edition of the Voice of the Voter, we look back on all that has happened through the eyes of the voters who lived it.
So we are just north of Dahlonega on a private water trout fishery.
We are at 2765 East College Avenue in Avondale Estates, Georgia.
This is just a baby toss now. There you go.
Are you saying Atlanta's full?
You know, I'm not gonna say we're full yet, but it does feel full some days.
We are in beautiful East Point, Georgia.
We're changing lives.
What worries you the most as we get into this election season?
Memories of the last election season. Right now, it's who's going to be in it.
The divisiveness.
Voter suppression and also voter fatigue. These last few election cycles have been rough.
How do you feel the state of politics and how our elected officials are doing right now in Georgia or even nationally?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is they're not taking care of small businesses.
What's the single biggest issue that's going to govern how you vote in the fall?
Who can I trust to make an impact on the economy?
You know, the cost of things right now.
We need to fix our immigration issues.
Like climate justice to like gun safety to like LGBTQ plus rights.
When we look at issues like reproductive health care, that's a big one.
I have a beautiful grandbaby that's on the autism spectrum. I need somebody I need my grandbaby to have more rights than I had, not less.
You told us about what worries you. You told us about your big issues. We always end on this question. What are you optimistic about?
I like the fact that more people are questioning just the narratives they're told.
Well, the best part of my job is I get to see 17 to 22-year-olds every day that are working hard.
One day we are getting closer to federal legalization.
I know there's a lot of great people in the community here that I see coming through our shop.
I'm optimistic that we come back together as a country.
A lot of Americans, they are inherently good people.
I mean, there's work to be done as a country. Focus on the things that unite us. Let's move forward as a country together.
The majority of people are good people and want to make a difference.
The type of leadership that's out here and type of businesses that are out here, they still find ways to connect to the culture.
The people will understand that they have the power.
Ending on optimism, it's so crazy to take a look back at how far we've come. And there's so many voices that were not able to make that peace.
What an incredible year with you, with all of you, with everybody who has shared this journey with us. And good news, there is lots more to come. And it starts next Sunday. We'll see you back then at 11 a.m.